Why have we spent the last 20 years fighting enemies that don't abide by rules at all, when we live now in a world in 2024 where all of our enemies use all of their advantages against us, ignoring all the rules of war, and then expecting us to play by all those very same rules, where we're our largest critiquers in the middle of the process, and then we wonder why the war never ends, and why it perpetuates itself, and then why we're throwing our own guys in jail? Because we've written rules that are impossible, that are written for us to lose.
All new at 5:30, a Pentagon ban on women in combat is over, opening up new opportunities for the next generation of female soldiers. Defense Secretary Leon Panetta says removing outdated barriers to women will make our military stronger, and the president agrees.
You don't like women in combat?
No.
Why not?
Because everything about men and women serving together makes the situation more complicated, and complication in combat means casualties are worse. Take the assassination attempt of President Trump. In a perfect world, would you want to have like 6'3" guys guarding a 6'3" president?
Well, I'll tell you what, it sure as hell doesn't make sense to have a 5'5" woman in there guarding a 6'2" man, because part of personal security is you should be able to shield your principal.
You know, I wrote a book about education, I've written some books about politics, and it just didn't feel like the right time to kind of assess where we were in the military, especially after 20 years of more or less ongoing combat. But then things, you know, under Obama, but really after Trump and then in Biden, you start to look around and you say, wow. And it happened really fast. The deeper question is, how did the military allow itself to go well?
Service members in the U.S. military branches are warning that diversity, equity, and inclusion policies are weakening the institutions, while recruitment is falling short and morale is dropping.
No one wants to work, let alone serve. Last year, the Army alone came up short. They wanted 60,000, they were short by 15,000. Are woke recruiting commercials like this to blame?
When the American people see advertisements in June with rainbow bullets strapped to helmets, when they see surgeries for transgender being funded by taxpayers, they see the Department of Defense being turned into a social engineering experiment.
We saw it under Clinton with the tinkering of Don't Ask, Don't Tell and the reasons for those changes, and I talked to some of the people involved in when that was changed, but it really started to accelerate under Obama. Would I recommend my kids join the Army today or the military today? And it used to be, of course I would. And over the last couple of years, it became clear, like, would I? Take Joe Biden, for example. But he made a deal with the devil with the far left because he thought it would keep his position stable. I think that's what a lot of members of the left who think a lot of what the radicals think is crazy do.
To be a nation of hope and unity and optimism, or a nation of fear, division, and of darkness. MAGA Republicans have made their choice. They embrace anger. They thrive on chaos. They live not in the light of truth, but in the shadow of lies.
So it becomes a race to the bottom.
When's the last time we actually went to war to fight for our freedom?
We won't even defend our southern border.
Well, the new administration's decision to stop border wall construction has forced crews to put down tools, this kills me, and walk away in the middle of work. By the way, this is a wall we already paid for, a decision that one Arizona sheriff says left behind a roadway for smugglers.
History is full of examples where great empires, great countries, overextend themselves like we have for the last 20 years, and then when that next big moment comes, we're shocked.
China is our military's most consequential strategic competitor and pacing challenge.
China's building an army specifically dedicated to defeating the United States of America. That is their strategic outset.
They really have us from just about every angle.
Our water treatment plants, our electrical grid, our oil and natural gas pipelines, our transportation systems, and the risk that poses to every American requires our attention now.
The foolishness with which we ricocheted around the world, intervening, think it was in our best interest, when really we just overturned the table and created something worse in almost every single scenario.
The tumultuous end to America's longest war, immortalized in these chaotic scenes. The Taliban's lightning-fast takeover of Afghanistan just weeks before the United States' planned military withdrawal triggered such intense panic that thousands of Afghans stormed the Kabul airport in a desperate attempt to flee the country. Some even clinging to a moving U.S. military aircraft as it rose into the sky and falling to their deaths.
I used to think it started in the 60s. It actually goes back to the progressive era and even before that. But they very intentionally, the one thing they knew they had to remove from the beginning was God. God had to come out of the schools because God was the immovable object that prevented their utopian schemes. You know, if you want to manipulate children, if you want to change the way they think, rewire the relationship of families, you have to get at the God thing. And so the early progressives, communists, Marxists, very intentionally worked hard in creating systems that slowly but surely removed God. You can spend all day long listening to your show, watching Fox, and getting pissed. And a lot of us do. But what are you doing about your own family?
Yeah.
What do you do about your kids and your grandkids? That's what you have to save right now.